Welcome to the West Coast National Park, located about an hour's drive from Cape Town city centre along the R27, better known as the West Coast Road. It's just south of the coastal town of Longabon on the arid west coast of South Africa. The park was established in 1985 as the Longabon National Park and was renamed in 1987. It covers 36,000 hectares from the small town of Azefontein in the south to Longabon in the north. The lagoon was designated a wetland of international importance according to the Ramsar Convention in 1975. The park has two public gates, the West Coast Gate on the R27 in the south and the Longabon Gate in the north. The gates open from 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening from September to March, and from 7 in the morning to 6 in the evening from April to August. The speed limit in the park is 50 kilometers an hour, but speeds a lot lower than this are recommended for optimal wildlife viewing. The park is something for everyone all year round, but springtime between August and September is arguably the best time to visit the park for the spectacular flower show around the Postberg area, and of course summertime for all your lagoon activities. There's several picnic areas along with hiking and biking trails, and of course the historic old Cape Dutch thatched roof building housing the Geelbeck Information Centre, where you can find food and refreshments along with public toilets. There's obviously no access to the park after closing time. However, the park offers various overnight rental accommodation options like the Abrahamskraal Cottage or the Van Breda Cottage close to Geelbeck. But of course we're here to see the birds, and with over 315 different bird species recorded in the park, it's one of the most visited birding destinations in the Western Cape, if not the whole of South Africa. It's also attracted a large number of South African rarities over the years, resulting in twitchers having to make the mad dash up the R27 to see these amazing vagrants before they fly. In summer, the park hosts truly vast numbers of wading birds, up to 50,000 individuals making use of the tidal flats. The various islands in and around the park and lagoon provide breeding and roosting sites for around 250,000 birds, some housing large percentages of the global population of some species. The park also holds 6 of South Africa's 18 full endemics. There are several bird hides dotted around the park, with 3 on the main salt lagoon, 2 at Geelbeck and 1 at Seaberg, and 1 on a freshwater marsh at Abrahamskraal. The vast majority of the park is made up of coastal strandveld, which at first doesn't look like it's very productive, but if you drive slowly, this will give you enough time to look and listen, and you'll find it's quite a productive habitat. Filmed over several days and including footage from previous visits, come along with me now as we explore the amazing West Coast National Park, arriving here to enter the park from the north at the Longabon Gate. Your birding will start long before you reach either gate. The areas around the park are sparsely populated and wild, and of course birds know no bounds. I've had incredible sightings just outside the park, so start scanning on the approach roads, you might get a lucky sighting. And that especially goes for the north entrance, where I've had small grey mongoose and caracal right outside the gate. This small noisy group of grey-winged francolin were just outside the fence, filmed from the approach road on private property. It's a beautifully patterned, medium-sized bird in the pheasant family, found primarily in Lesotho and South Africa. It's a bit of a specialist, preferring upland grassland, fynbos and Karoo scrublands, and is relatively common in the park. Typically seen in pairs during the breeding season, but they prefer hanging out in small groups. Nests are ground scrapes, lined with grass and sometimes feathers, where they lay between 4 and 8 eggs, but as many as 15 eggs can be found where several females lay in the same nest, usually between August and November. Their diet includes plant matter, like seeds, leaves and small bulbs, and invertebrates, especially when feeding chicks. Most visitors driving up from Cape Town will enter the park at the West Coast Gate in the south, but I'm lucky enough to have family living in Longabon, so I take the short drive south from Longabon to enter the park from the north at the aptly named Longabon Gate. Once you enter the gate, the birding starts almost immediately, so drive slowly and keep your eyes peeled. Morning and welcome to the West Coast National Park. The gates have literally just opened at 7 o'clock and I was the first one in the queue. I'm going to spend the morning and afternoon birding around the park. I'm heading directly to Abrahams-Král Hide, first of all, because most of the hides are tide dependent, so you want to get there into the hides about an hour before high tide to see the birds push up against the coastline. But before that, I'm going to drive to a freshwater hide called Abrahams-Král to try and update my African water rail sighting. I've seen one before, but very distant, and I just want to properly be able to tick that off, and then I'll show you around the park. Hopefully we'll see some amazing wildlife, black harrier, and then work my way back up to the north entrance, go out, spend some time with the family, and then come in late afternoon again. The weather's not the greatest, it's fairly overcast, but I'm going to be visiting the park several times over the next few days, so I'm going to get different weather types, it's just a given. It's very cool today. I've actually got a jumper with me. So yeah, let's see what we can find, visit the hides, I'll show you all around, and hopefully see some spectacular wildlife in the process. Almost immediately after entering the gate, I had a small grey mongoose working the roadside. These small carnivores are diurnal, so are more often seen early in the mornings, and as the day heats up, they disappear. Right, so this is the turning to Abrahams-Král and the hide down there. I've had black harrier down this road several times. Black heron, ostrich, all sorts of things down here. So you want to take a nice slow drive down here towards the hide, scanning either side of the road. Right, I've just arrived at Abrahams-Král. There's a flock of ostrich there. A pair of yellow-billed kite in that palm tree. And I'm just hearing all sorts of goodies down there. Okay, we're just going to take a walk down to the hide and then we're just going to sit there a little bit. I'm after a water rail, African water rail. Looks similar to the European water rail. Just keep my eyes open for black harrier, which I've had just now over that hill. It's a really good spot for them. Can already see black-winged stilt, and there's a swallow sitting on top of the hide as well. Yellow-billed kite in the background. The fact that this walkway is not covered or shielded from the wetland doesn't seem to bother the birds there. They don't even fly out or anything. This is the only freshwater hide in the park, so you get species here that potentially may not be in any other parts of the park that are easily viewable. A little swallow sitting on top of the hide. Cape weavers.
There's a swamp warbler calling as well. Water's a bit high for water rail to be cruising through there, so I don't know if you're going to see that today. There's actually a little swallow sitting on a nest there. Dropped out. I'm standing in front of the door, so I'm just going to open the door and let it fly out. Or maybe what I'll do is I'll just open one of these. Come on.
White-throated swallows have been breeding in this hide for years, as you can see from the old mud marks up on the rafters. It's a common species found in southern Africa, from Angola and Zambia southwards to the Cape. It has a relatively short migration, spending its winter in Angola and Zambia. It likes open grassland with a preference for highlands and near water, often found around man-made structures like bridges and dams. They feed by catching insects on the wing and make a cup-shaped nest out of mud lined with soft grass, feathers and even hair. The same nest may be used over subsequent broods and even over several years. Typically 3 eggs are laid, which are incubated by the female alone. The chicks are fed by both adults. As with all the hides in the park, this hide is well maintained and has plenty of seating with 180-degree views overlooking the only freshwater marsh in the park. The hide has information boards detailing the birds you're most likely to see from this hide. This hide becomes popular when the tides end viewing at the hides on the mud flats on the main lagoon.
Black-shelled kite. Okay, unfortunately it was deathly quiet at that hide. Water level's a bit too high for water rail, I think. Or certainly to view from the hide itself. Lovely pair of swallows breeding inside. Black-shelled kite over, yellow-billed kite. There's a swamp warbler calling there. And this is a Cape Weaver, black-winged stoat. Yeah, nice place to hang out there. Okay, Abrahamskraal was a bit quiet, so I'm going to try and re-find that black harrier, see if I can get better shots of it. It wasn't too far away, so I'm just going to see if I can drive around and pick it up on the other side again. Yellow-billed kite on the sign over there. That's the yellow-billed kite above us in the road there. This is where I had the black harrier earlier, so I'm just re-driving this area just to see if I can pick it up again. Just going to drive the Abrahamskraal Hyde Road again because the black harriers, they do like to hang out on that road. I've had them there several times. And then I'll I'll do the road and then go on. There's a yellow-billed kite and a pied crow in front of us at the moment. Okay, sadly no more black harriers, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head to Geelbeek, which is sort of like the main headquarters of the park. There's a restaurant there, toilets, etc, etc, and also of course good birding all around there. So and then also the Geelbeek Sea Hide is excellent spot. So we're a little bit early, but considering that Abrahamskraal, etc., is quiet, I'm going to sacrifice that and spend more time in Geelbeek today. Like I said, I'll be back here 1 or 2 more days, so I'm not in too much of a rush to pick up things around the park. I'll just take it easy.
Cape spurfowl are one of 6 South African endemics found in the park and is the largest of our francolins. It's adapted to alien vegetation and a variety of human habitats. These are considered monotypic in that no subspecies are recognized. Its closest relative is the Natal spurfowl in similar plumage.
Okay, we're going to stop off at the park sort of headquarters, Geelbeek, and just do a little birding around the buildings there, and then slowly make our way to Geelbeek Hide. Tortoise in the road, yeah.
The angulate tortoise can be found in dry areas and coastal scrubland in southern and western South Africa, running up the west coast into southern Namibia. A small shy tortoise with a variable shell, distinguished by its predominant bowsprit, which are the protrusions of the shield from their plastrons under the chin, which the males use when fighting over females in territory. All other South African tortoises have divided or double-scaled shields under the chin. The fun fact here is that they have 5 claws on the front legs and 4 on the back.
Okay, as I was driving in, I just saw a hoopoe in this garden here, so we'll go and have a look quickly. There are people here, so they may have flushed it. Black-shouldered kite sitting up there. I'm going to see if I can get a shot of it. Pied starling. That's the Geelbeek Hide over there, the famous Geelbeek Hide. So you want to sit there as the tide comes in. I think I'm wasting my time with this black-shouldered kite. It's going to take off way before I even get a chance to take a shot of it. Up here.
The Geelbeek Visitor Centre is housed around an old Cape Dutch style building from the 1860s, which has been made a national monument. The name Geelbeek comes from the yellow-billed duck. It's got toilets and a restaurant serving traditional dishes, and lots of picnic areas around to enjoy a bite at. An interesting story about Geelbeek is that in the 1920s it housed the largest wine cellar in the country due to the then governor of the Cape storing his vast collection of wine there. Sadly, all the wine is now gone because I looked for it.
See if we can re-find that hoopoe. pied starlings, guinea fowls, doves over spurwing, spurfowl. Got a pied starling on that exit and a fiscal flycatcher on the right hand side. Few guinea fowl. Bokmakeri, gone in there. I'll try and get a shot. It's a beautiful bird though. I can hear the hoopoes there, so we'll take a walk. See if we can find them. Loads of pied starlings there. I think this is a private accommodation, so I won't go too much closer. I'll go around the other side. Go around this side. It looks like it's the route to the sea hide, so I'll come back to that one. Rock martin.
The large rock martin is a passerine in the swallow family, resident in southern Africa. It breeds mainly in mountainous areas, but is also found at lower levels, especially around rocky areas and around towns. Unlike most other swallows, it can be found far from water. It's now split as a species from the smaller, paler and white-throated northern bird, the pale crag martin. They build their neat quarter-sphere nests on vertical surfaces, or a fuller, deeper bowl on overhangs, and line them with grass and feathers, often reusing them for subsequent broods or years. These birds are solitary breeders, but may form small groups in suitable locations. Typically 2 to 3 eggs are laid and are incubated by both adults. Both adults also feed the young, and fledging takes place after about 22 days. They feed mainly on the wing, catching insects in flight, but can also feed on the ground.
There's a tortoise here and some spurfowl. Can you hear the hoopoes calling here? I'll try and give them a go. This tortoise is going to try and leg it away from me now. They don't hang around. Well, just had a hoopoo going here. And I can hear another one calling there.
Pied starling is an endemic bird to South Africa, Lesotho and Eswatini. It's common in its range, though absent from the arid northwest and eastern lowlands of South Africa. It occurs in open grassland, karoo scrub and farmlands, where it often associates with farm animals. It's a gregarious bird, forming large flocks outside of the breeding season. These birds normally nest in tunnels in riverbanks, but will take to cavities in buildings, trees and even holes in straw bales.
Two hoopoes coming straight for me. Okay, I'm going to put you off for a sec. Just three hoopoes.
Hoopoe are often found around the buildings of Geelbek, so you'd be hard-pressed to miss them. They're widely distributed throughout southern Africa, and unlike the Eurasian bird that often migrates, the African hoopoe is usually resident. Hoopoe eat mainly insects, but worms, slugs and even small reptiles can be taken, along with seeds and berries. To find the insects, they use their long beaks to penetrate the soil and then may whack the prey onto the ground to break it up into smaller pieces before swallowing them. They prefer to do this in shorter grass. African hoopoes maintain a specific territory throughout the breeding season in which they feed. The chicks are fed mostly by the male until close to fledging time, when the male and female share the responsibilities. The chicks fledge after about 26 days. These birds are double brooded and have 2 sets of chicks per year.
Flying round. Okay, they've gone over the other side. 3 hoopoes. I've never had much luck filming hoopoe. They always seem to be so flighty. Some sacred ibises here. Rock martin.
These charismatic waders are native to central and southern tropical regions of Africa and are common across the Cape, often occurring and breeding right in your residential gardens and parks, but prefer grasslands and savannas. They are incredibly well camouflaged, and if sitting still on a rocky ground can easily be overlooked. They're nocturnal and hunt exclusively on the ground, feeding on insects, small mammals and lizards. They nest on the ground in a scrape, lined with grasses, feathers, pebbles and twigs.
Kelp gull.
Black-winged kites, formerly known as black-shouldered kites, is a small diurnal bird of prey best known for its habit of hovering over open grassland, much like smaller kestrels do. It occurs over the Palearctic and Afrotropical areas. They are not migratory but can be nomadic in response to weather and food availability, and can raise multiple broods in a single year, unlike most birds of prey.
This is private property, unfortunately. The hoopoes are directly on the other side of that. So I may go around the front, the other side again, see if I can pick them up.
Cape spurfowl are very common in the Western Cape Strandveld, Renosterveld and Fynbos regions, especially at lower altitudes, being replaced at high altitudes by grey-winged francolin. As you can see here, if disturbance is minimal, the birds can become very tame and will happily feed in gardens, on roadsides and even with domesticated farmyard fowl. Like other francolins, several females may lay eggs in the same nest, resulting in super clutches having to be incubated. It'll run rather than fly and will use its wings as a last resort. The sexes are similar in plumage, but the males have 2 leg spurs, whereas the females at best only have 1 short spur. This large dark francolin is unlikely to be confused with any other species in its range.
Too close. Not really bothered. Cape spurfowl. I changed to the DJI because too close to focus. even though it's a little bit early tide-wise, I think, we're going to drive over to Gilbeck, the Hyde there on the sea, and just sit there for a couple of hours and see what we can find. Yeah, this always quite productive around here, around the buildings. Of course, the human habitation always attracts birds. So yeah, at least 3 hoopoe, rock kestrels, black-shouldered kite, yellow-billed kite, a couple of herons over, rock martin. Yeah, the list goes on and on and on. You could spend a whole hour here around the buildings on its own. So let's take a drive over to Gilbeck now and enjoy the sea hide for a bit. Okay, so just a short distance from the main buildings on the exit road is the entrance to Gilbeck Hyde. There's a signpost here that indicates an arrow that way. So there looks like there's people already enjoying the hide, so we will take a walk down and see what we can see. Another black-shouldered kite, tortoise crossing the road. There's always something to look at. So there's the bird hide, to say that way. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Just parked up here in the shade. I've had woodpeckers in here, cardinal woodpeckers, things like that. Lots of raptors.
Cardinal woodpeckers are a wide and common resident breeder in its sub-Saharan range. They occur in a wide range of habitats from dense forest to thorny scrub. The adults can be told apart from their head coloration, red for males and brown for females. Like most woodpeckers, they have a straight bill and stiff tail feathers to support themselves against tree trunks, and have zygodactyl feet, meaning 2 toes forward and 2 toes back. Breeding usually occurs in spring and early summer. Like other woodpecker species, they usually excavate a new breeding cavity every season, which takes a few weeks. Both parents participate in incubation, brooding, and feeding. The clutch is incubated for about 12 days and the chicks fledge in about 27 days.
Nice day, but windy, unfortunately.
Bird in the Gilbeck Hyde and surrounds normally starts right from when you leave the car. These now dry pans are normally full of water and also full of waders, and even though it's a short walk to the hide, it can in reality take you a while to get there, because you scan through all the waders using the salt marsh to feed on before you make it to the great birding from the hide itself.
There's a blacksmith lapwing and a Kittlitz plover pair. Heron under that tree, under that shrub there. So that's the hide in the distance there that I haven't been to yet. And this is Gilbeck in front of us. You sometimes get African marsh harrier and also marsh owl over these reed beds if you're lucky. There's a few waders here up front here. Okay. Okay, I've got marsh sandpiper, little stint, curly sandpiper, Kittlitz plover. There's so many birds just here alone. So many little stint as well. Got kitlets there, marsh, sandpiper, little stint, curly sandpipers. Little stint right in front of us here.
I've spent many a happy hour bird watching from the famous Geelbek hide. At the right time of year and in the right conditions, you have so many birds to look at that sometimes you don't know where to start looking. This is the hide that makes birding in the West Coast National Park so famous. It's also the hide that's produced the most South African rarities than just about any hide in the country. The hide is located in the extreme southeast corner of the lagoon and looks northwest, basically straight up the lagoon towards the town of Langebaan. In the mornings you have the sun more or less behind you, but in the afternoon the sun can affect viewing from the hide. You approach the hide over a boardwalk, and the hide itself is directly over the mud flats, built on stilts. The hide can accommodate between 30 and 35 people and is well maintained, with viewing slots covering the mud flats in an almost 360-degree view. But the thing to note here is these hides are highly influenced by the tides. If you come at the wrong time, you might not see anything here and wonder what all the fuss is about. It's best to be in the hide on a drop-in tide, as it takes longer for the tide to drop here than it does when coming in, which relates to having the birds near the hide for a longer period of time. So if you look at the tide chart for Table Bay, the tide will start dropping at Geelbek 4 to 4.5 hours after high tide in Table Bay. Reversely, if you are in the hide for a pushing tide, you want to be in the hide about an hour and a half before high tide at Geelbek itself, before the birds are pushed off the mud flats completely. The other thing to bear in mind here is the wind direction. If you have a strong northwesterly blowing down the lagoon towards the hide, this will affect the tides here too, so bear this in mind when visiting this amazing hide. The variety of birds and numbers you can see from this hide are truly mind-boggling. Obviously certain times of the year will be better than others, but I've never not had a great time watching birds from this hide, regardless of the time of year. And luckily for me, the tides will dictate your time in this hide, or I'd be in it all day long and miss out on the other great birds in the park. There's just too many different bird species here to talk about each one, so sit back and just enjoy this bit of the video without me blabbering in the background.
That's where the car's parked. Okay, almost back to the car. So I'm not done with my black harriers yet. I'm going to head back to Abrahamskraal and see if I can pick them up again. And maybe leave the last sea hide either for later this afternoon when I'm back from my family event, or for another day. But I'm just going to spend a bit of time now looking for these harriers. Such a quality bird, you can't not help yourself but look for them as much as you can. Okay, I've just had the black harrier work in that far side there. I'm just reversing back.
Arguably one of the best birds in the park, well for me anyway, and certainly one of the best looking harrier species in the world. Black harriers are a medium-sized African harrier whose range extends from South Africa to Botswana and Namibia. When perched, the bird looks all black, but in flight, a white rump and flight feathers are exposed. Here in South Africa, their breeding seems to concentrate in western and southern coastal plains, but occur inland in montane habitats too. No nesting takes place in cultivated or transformed land. They're migratory with a general east-west movement across South Africa. It's been suggested that these birds migrate due to food scarcity. These birds are small mammal and bird specialists, catching them while quartering low over their hunting grounds. Most breeding takes place in the Western Cape, and like other harrier species, nest on the ground in tall vegetation. Eggs are laid between June and November, with 2 to 4 eggs generally being laid.
The black harrier worked that far hill there, all the way to that sort of like housey structure there with the water tank on the top, and then it disappeared over the other side, unfortunately. Right, I've just seen the black harrier turn around and go back north, skirting the top of that hill next to the road. So I'm just going to drive kind of with it. It's out of sight at the moment. I'm just going to drive with it northwards and see if it pops out somewhere. I'd love for it to fly over the hill here somewhere. Loves this valley behind me as well here. My hunch about the black harrier paid off. I followed that hill to where the dirt road from Abrahamskraal tees into the tarred road, and I turned left up onto the hill, and I thought I had missed it, so I just let it go. I turned around and was driving back to sort of Abrahamskraal area, looked out my window, and the black harrier was right there. Take a look at this. It's got like a rodent in its talons. I fired off about 20 shots before it disappeared on me. Unbelievable. What a bird. Check this thing out in the road. Okay, we're about to exit the park for the morning, and then I'm going to spend some time with the family and then come back in later this afternoon. So this is the exit, the north exit of the park. Good morning and welcome to another day in the West Coast National Park. It's about an hour before opening time and I've just made my way to the entrance. I've only got a very short time this morning again, 3 hours. So I'm going to drive over to Abrahmskraal, check that area out. I'm not going to go to the Hyde because the water's too high and there's not much there. And then I'm immediately going to turn around and drive back, and I'm going to spend a bit of time in the Seaberg Hyde as much as I can before driving out at 10, pick up some family, and then I'm going to come back in again later this afternoon and make my way south all the way to the South Gate, out and back home.
The helmeted guinea fowl is the best known of the guinea fowl family. It's native to Africa, mainly south of the Sahara, and has been widely introduced as a domesticated species across the world. This is a gregarious species, forming flocks outside of the breeding season, typically of about 25 birds, that also roost communally. These birds are terrestrial and prone to run rather than fly when alarmed. They can walk 10 kilometers or more in a day. Their bodies are well suited for running, and they're remarkably successful in maintaining dynamic stability over rough terrain at speed. They make loud, harsh calls when disturbed. They are found in warm, fairly dry and open habitats with scattered shrubs and trees, such as savanna and farmlands, but are also commonly found in suburban gardens and parks. African ring-necked dove or Cape turtle dove is a common widespread bird across eastern and southern Africa, and while watching this one I completely failed to see the female cardinal woodpecker hunting directly below it in the shade of the telephone post, only seeing it at the last minute.
Got a southern black crown out there, just to the right of that pole. It's a little bit distant there and facing backwards. Okay, we're in the park nice and early. We'll come back here to Seaberg, a couple of ostriches up there, and spend the sort of late morning there. But I'm just going to take a slow drive to Abrahmskraal and back. Just about 3 ostriches up there.
Ostriches are made up of 2 living species, the common ostrich, the one filmed here, and the Somali birds. They're the heaviest and largest living birds, with adult common ostriches weighing in between 63 and 145 kilograms, and laying the largest eggs of any living land animal. And interestingly, a single egg can take the weight of an adult human without breaking, which most ostrich farms will gladly demonstrate to visiting tourists. They have the ability to run at 70 kilometers an hour, making them the fastest birds on land.
This is the Seaberg lookout. Spectacular views from up here. I'm not sure what this little house was, but I'll do a bit of reading up and give you a bit of a blurb. but it's basically the top of a massive granite dome inside the park. Just had amazing sightings of caracal. Looked like it had something in its mouth, but I wasn't quick enough to get the camera on it, unfortunately, as it slinked across the road. Look at that. Spectacular. So that's where the Geelbek hide is. Way in the distance, not this closer, but yeah, but way down in the distance there.
The Seaberg Heritage Cottage is a small historical stone house. It was reportedly built by a local Dutchman named Bolly Prance, who gathered stones from the base of the hill and carried them up in bags to construct the cottage. Today the cottage serves as a museum, offering visitors a glimpse into the area's history and early settler life.
Seaberg Heritage Cottage. Talk about a stark place to live. But this place gives you spectacular views over the park. So that's Langebaan, where we've just come from, way in the distance there. That's the road we're going to be travelling just now. Bird calls all over the place. It's nice and early still. I could hear a rock kestrel down there. It's on the biggest dome there. There's a family group and there's a youngster shouting for food. Oh my word, I think there's about 5 or 6 of them there. Let me just quickly take a quick shot for you.
Rock kestrels can be found from Angola and southern DRC to southern Tanzania and south to South Africa. It's normally associated with arid areas. They eat primarily invertebrates, but have been known to consume rodents, reptiles and birds. 2 forms of hunting are employed: hover hunting and perch hunting. They nest in either old stick nests or on cliffs where they may make a depression in the sand. They lay 1 to 6 eggs, incubated by the female alone, while the male sources food. The Cape bunting occurs across southern Africa. Its habitat is rocky slopes and dry weedy scrub, and mainly in the mountains in the north of its range. It's not gregarious and is normally seen alone, in pairs, or small family groups. It feeds on the ground on seeds, insects and spiders. Its lined cup nest is built low in a shrub or tussock, and 2 or 4 eggs are normally laid.
So I can hear southern black Roran. I've just had black harrier over and around the corner. Rock kestrel, Karoo, Prinia, bunting still blasting out. Kestrels around the corner, rock kestrel. I could stay all day if I had the time. Back up at the little cottage here. Black harrier. Okay, just got some shots, but the black harrier is just going right there, distantly. Had it here, circling, and then and out that way. So if that's an indication of how my day is going to go, I can't wait for this day. It makes a difference when there's no cloud and no wind. Okay, just greybacks of sticklers in here. Okay, this is where I had spectacular views of black harrier, but I've just got a bontebok here. Right next to the road, actually. There's another one. I didn't see the closer one. 2 seconds. There's some ostriches up there, which I've just taken video of. Okay, we're at the turn off to Abrahamskraal, which is of course good for black harrier. So I'm just going to drive this up and down and then head back to Seaberg and spend the rest of the morning there.
The black-headed heron is a large wading bird standing at around 85 centimeters tall and has a wingspan of around 1.5 meters. It's found throughout much of sub-Saharan Africa and Madagascar and is easily confused with grey heron, which are paler. It often feeds in shallow water, but like this one, can hunt well away from water too, eating large insects, small mammals and birds. When I was all the way down at the Abrahamskraal Hyde parking area, I found this amazingly large flock of various aged ostriches around the Abrahamskraal cottage. Presumably several families have joined up to form a rather large flock. I guess there's safety in numbers here. Again, I didn't have much luck with black harrier down the Abrahamskraal road, but on my way back to the Seaberg Hyde, I had great views right from the main road through the park.
Okay, I've just had stonking views of black harrier, amazing, directly overhead and quartering both sides of the road. So I've had my fill of them, so I'm going to head now to the Seaberg Hyde and just sit there for the rest of the day and potter around that area. It's quite nice to walk around, and then out to the family afterwards. So day's nearly done, well the morning session is nearly done, and then we'll come in later on this afternoon again. Okay, we're at the Seaberg Hyde turnoff now, and we'll just spend the rest of the morning here. There's a little tortoise here in the road. Okay, the drive down to the hide, it can be quite productive as well, so you just want to take your time here, scan all the bushes, listen out for calls, both sides of the road. That's the Seaberg hide down there, newly renovated. Tide's out, but that's okay. We're just gonna muck about here and kill some time before we need to head back. So we'll just park up here quick. This section here gives you a bit of time to do a little bit of bush birding in this coastal scrub. Used to be a pendline tit pair that had a nest literally right next to the boardwalk, giving you point blank views, but that was some years back now already. That's the hide in front of us there, and along a barn behind this tall tree here, you can just see the houses on top of the hill. The Karoo scrub robin just literally in here, just dropped down, but I can't see it. It's on the ground somewhere. That's the granite dome that we were on earlier with the cottage. You can actually see the cottage right on the top there. Black harriers all around there. Can't get enough of those birds, they're brilliant. So what you want to do, obviously it's low tide now, so we're not going to have much birds up around the hide itself. You want to get here kind of, just an hour or so before high tide and an hour or so after high tide as the water recedes and advances, pushes the waders up against the hide. Same for Geelbeek hide. Very quiet here today, which is weird because the sun's out and there's hardly any wind. A few sunbirds calling, southern double-collared. You don't get the greater double-collared sunbird down here. Okay, I just had a pair of pendline tit there, and I think it's Little Swift through. I came here once and I had about 60 curlew sandpipers in this pan here. Coming from the UK, I immediately incorrectly ID'd them as Dunlin, and Dad said, "What do you mean Dunlin? Those are all curly sandpipers." I nearly had a heart attack. Kittlit's sandpiper. Sorry, Kittlit's plover, just there. Greater flamingos, and what looks like a flock of kelp gull, heart-lipped gull. Hopefully there'll be some waders up around the hide. If you come in the wetter months, this is all full of water, and you'll have sandpipers, curly sandpipers, Kittlit's plover, all sorts in here, showing like point blank. Okay, let's see what this hide has to offer quick. Massive flock of flamingos and African oyster catchers and a whole bunch of other waders, which I'm going to take a look at now. So just out ahead of us there is a massive flock of lesser flamingos, African oyster catcher, wombrill, little tern, common tern, sandwich tern. There's a grey heron in there as well, and a few other waders that I can't spot with my binos.
The Seaberg Hide was always a single-story building, overlooking a vast sandy tidal flat, but over the years a sand dune formed in front of the hide, blocking not only the view forward but an even better view to the north, where the birds being pushed off the mud flats at Geelbek would fly into roost, waiting for the tide to drop. They would normally fly in about 30 minutes after high tide at Geelbek had forced them off, so this is a great hide to visit once the sightings at Geelbek had dried up. Not as productive as the Geelbek hide, but still a great place to sit for an hour or so when all the other lagoon hides are done because the tide is all the way in. This hide struggles a bit when the tide is all the way out, because of how vast the tidal flats are here, and I don't even think a scope will help you out here. The area surrounding this hide is brilliant too, with a completely different habitat to the other hides, containing a small coastal dune system which is great for various plovers and sandpipers. As before, I'll just let you enjoy the birds that can be found here for a bit without me talking in the background. Crowned lapwing has a massive range down the eastern side of Africa from Ethiopia and then over the whole of southern Africa to Cape Town. They prefer short, dry grassland which may be overgrazed or burnt but avoid mountains and have no problem around urban environments. Males perform display flights to secure females and may mate for life. Egg laying is timed with the rainy season and the female does most of the incubating. These birds are famously noisy, especially when a nest or chicks are threatened, and the adults perform a noisy destruction display if you get too close.
That's a pair of Caspians up high and I'm not sure, I think that's the third one.
Corvids and birds of prey simply don't mix. I've seen this interaction play out all over the world, and looks like the West Coast National Park is no different. Here a pied crow flew up from nowhere to give this black harrier a bad day. After a few near misses, they soon parted ways and continued on their way. Eland is the world's largest antelope, although that title goes to the giant eland. However, these common eland come in a close second. Adult males stand at around 1.6 meters at the shoulder and weigh in at around a ton. They prefer habitat with a wide variety of flowering plants, such as savanna, woodlands, and open montane grasslands, but avoid dense forests. Here in this coastal Strandveld they do very well. Both sexes have sturdy spiral horns, but the males are thicker and shorter than the females. As the males age, their coats become grayer. Eland are the slowest antelopes, and when sprinting tire quickly, however can maintain a 22 km/h trot indefinitely. For their incredible size, eland are amazingly agile and can jump 2.5 meters from a standing start when startled. Don't you just love it when you have weird birding experiences like this? This southern black Quran brought us to a stop by standing right in the middle of the road, looking very out of place in the process, and then proceeded to walk towards us. It stood in the road for about 5 minutes until the passing car flushed it. It's endemic to southwestern South Africa and prefers semi-arid habitats such as grasslands, scrublands, and savannas, where it feeds on arthropods such as termites, beetles, grasshoppers, and ants. The rest of its diet is plant matter like seeds. It breeds in the spring by laying 1 or 2 eggs. Males will mate with several females and attract the females by performing display flights and can be heard vocalizing in a loud continuous croaking call. Numbers have declined massively due to habitat loss.
Okay, I've just come back to Abrahams-Kraal quickly. A little bit more action here. Cape Shoveler, Blackwing Stilt, and a small flock of spoonbills right in front of the hide, so that should be pretty good. Viewing, a little windy, not too bad. Okay, walking out of Abrahams-Kraal for the last time this visit. To head back to Cape Town. Hope you enjoyed your visit to West Coast National Park. I know I did. Right, now just the short drive out of the park.
You never know what you're going to run into around the next corner in this park, like this rather large beautiful mole snake crossing the road here. Occurring south of the Zambezi, these snakes grow to about 2 meters in length, and even though they can be quite aggressive, are completely non-venomous. Well, I hope you've enjoyed your time in the West Coast National Park with me. It's a place that holds a great deal of happy birding memories for me, and is much loved by millions of Cape Townians and people around the world. I must thank everybody who helped me with information and photos to complete this video, in particular Brian van der Walt, Gerald Wingate, Lynette Rudman, and Melanie Cornelius. I appreciate it a lot. Please consider subscribing and giving me a thumbs up if you'd like to see more birding adventures like this.